You're watching The Last Stand with Brian Custer.
That's right. It is The Last Stand. We bring you the biggest names in the sport. I am Brian Custer. Ooh, we got a good one today because we got a 2-division world champion. Super lightweight champion of the world. He is the Takeover. He's none other than Teofimo Lopez. What's up, champ? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm excited. I'm glad to be back here on The Last Stand, and I can't wait to just talk more about boxing.
All right, so let's get into it, man. You 5-0 since you've moved up to 140. Was that about 3 years ago? How much longer will we see the Takeover at 140 before you move up?
It's a great question to start right off the bat. Weight divisions are interesting, especially seeing the new weight class of 154 and how it's getting stacked. However, at 140, I've been great. I've been comfortable here. However, definitely am trying to aim for much more greatness. So I say a couple more fights before we see me maybe move up to the welterweight division.
Wow. I got to ask you then, what promotional banner are you fighting under now? Because I think it was not too long ago we saw the Takeover with a PBC hat on. I'm like, wait a minute. Is the Takeover now a member of the PBC? What promotional banner are you fighting under now?
Well, I think obviously I'm throwing out my brand in that sense, and I love what PBC has done, and I love what every kind of it's an interesting take, right, with every promoter. So at the moment, I guess I can do anything, fight anywhere. However, I do have just a cough up promotional fees for 2 more fights with Top Rank. Other than that, though, I can do anything, make anything happen, and go to any platform, as wished. So we're right there. We're almost at that cutting edge in that line.
I got you. The last time we seen you fight was back in May. You were on that card that Turkey had put up there in Times Square where you beat Arnold Barboza. So much hype going into that fight card. Ooh, it's in Times Square, the energy of New York City. And it left most people, to be honest with you, like unimpressed. They were like, it was uneventful, boring, except the Takeover's fight. Everyone was talking about the fight you had and the performance. Do you feel like you were the one who basically saved that card?
I'd say, yeah, I would say. I think that due to the fact of like the magnitude of it, right? It's never been done before. This is history in the making. I'm a world champion at that time of the stable of the card that they have stacked. We have phenomenal champions and former world champions there, right? But I just felt like, well, this is it. You gotta finish this with a bang, especially with all the money that's been implied and pushed on. And yeah, I do feel like the Takeover did take over and save the card as best as he could. Leading up, I started the thing, and next thing you know, you see Haney and Ryan. It was kind of like not what people expected. So I'm glad that I did what I could, and I'm looking forward for my next return.
Now, it was funny because after that fight, you were in talks to fight Devin Haney at a catch weight, and then it seemed to fall apart there in the last minute. Your manager was quoted as saying, Teal's not fighting Devin for personal reasons. What happened there?
I'd say, there was things that were agreed upon the fight, but I definitely don't want to dive too deep. I've explained prior about it. I think that it was just I guess I wanted to see after seeing Devin's performance, I felt like at the same time he definitely needed some of that a boost of a better whip. I don't think he threw that many punches. It was like one of the least amount of punches he was thrown. But I think overall, just I know that this fight will come around again for sure. But I definitely had to deal with some stuff on a personal level as well. So I just felt like before I get into another fight, just clear out my mind, clear out the personal things that I've been sometimes that takes a lot of weight going into a next fight. So just trying to clean this out beforehand.
Do you believe you and Devin Haney will fight in 2026?
I believe so. I don't see why not. I think now he's aiming for the WBO, world title at 147. And we've been talks about it. think the whole thing with the catch weight, I'm not a guy that does catch weights. I'm a guy that does, world titles and weight classes. No need for clauses like that. So I think, yeah, depending how he does with Brian Norman, we'll like to see what we do actually after that.
Recently,
Yes.
you and Shakur Stevenson, man, boy, it seems like y'all already been sparring and throwing jabs at one another, but you've been doing it on social media. All right. He tweeted, 4-division champion is on the way. You fired back. I'm putting you to sleep for all the times you put your fans to sleep with your performances. Sorry ass. I got a new nickname for you, Mr. Sandman. He came back and said, you stopped 0 people at 140. Now you're going to put me to sleep? Teofimo, your time is up. I hope you enjoyed your run. 4-division champion is on the way. Now, we had Eddie Hearn on The Last Stand, and Eddie Hearn said it's a fight that he wants to see finalized, that even he is trying to help finalize, and that he believes that it is a fight that will happen at the very beginning of 2026. So the question is, have you signed a contract? Do you know if Shakur has signed a contract? Are you fighting Shakur Stevenson in the beginning of 2026?
The whole thing is we talk what we talk, but now it's time to back up what we talk. And yes, we're looking forward to facing Shakur Stevenson early 2026. Definitely looking and excited for it. Neither one of us has gotten to the point of signing the dotted line. We're still in negotiations, and that's all it. But there are paperworks going and tossing back and forth, and soon enough, the fight fans and everyone around the world will see us having a fight deal.
I love it. Now, is this a fight that is a Vegas fight, or do you think this is a fight that's more of an East Coast, considering both of you got ties here to New York City? Obviously, he's from Jersey, but you're, obviously New York City. Is it more of a, let's say, New York City fight, or is this a Vegas fight, in your opinion?
I'd say this is just a good fight, period, regardless where it's at. However, being that it's going to be supported by His Excellency of Turkey Al Sheikh. It could be anywhere. It could be Saudi, it could be UK, it could be New York, it could be Vegas. One of those 4 locations definitely could be the one. I would love to get more in detail about it, Brian. However, you know how this goes when it comes to the boxing game. So just everybody stay tuned. I promise you guys all that this is the next fight.
Shakur also recently put out on social media, I'm going to beat the man at 140, get the Ring Magazine belt, and then laugh at all who doubted. No tune-ups, no fights to get comfortable at the weight, just big balls and big dreams.
Yeah, I commend him on, not having to do any type of, warm-up fights or any of that, et cetera, stuff that fighters would do. He's just coming right to the guy, and that's me. The king of the 140 division, super lightweight division, that's Teofimo Lopez. And, he's willing to step up, get out of his comfort zone. And, yeah, I give him that. However, it's not going to happen. I would love to, and I see myself giving him his first loss in his professional career.
How do you see this kind of fight? Because, people talk about you as a tactician, but then you have Shakur, who obviously uses movement, great defensively. Do you see it as an exciting fight, or how do you see it playing out?
How I see this fight being played out is with me pretty much setting that momentum for the people out there as well. Not really trying to force for it. However, I can't be too technical with Shakur. You got to make it a little ugly. You got to make it a little ugly. If you try to be too technical with Shakur, it could be too long of a weighted chess match. Certain people don't want to see that. They don't want to see pop shots. You know what I mean? They want to see good action. I don't think, for me, I don't see Shakur having the best defense in boxing. However, others can attest that. So, I just can't wait to really show the flaws that I see in Shakur Stevenson, and really putting that to the test when that time comes.
What do you think about? And I heard an interview that he had done recently where he talked about people are going to see my power. They talk a lot about my defense, but they're going to see my power in this fight against Teofimo.
Shakur is slow. He's slow. I seen him at lightweight. I seen only highlights of his last fight with Cepeda, and he's slow. He's really slow. There's nothing more to it than that. So it's I think that with everybody that he's seeing and from his group and from those that have been, killing the game, honestly, like Terence Crawford, which he calls and refers to as Big Bro. I think that the whole thing of that nature, I think that's really what's keeping him wanting to aim for bigger and better fights and for better opposition. I have yet to see, and I think you could attest with me, I don't think we have seen Shakur face anyone higher than who he's gonna face next, and that's of me. So, I definitely, commend him at least for stepping up to the plate. But I think it's time. I think it's really that time for him to really take his first loss and, me whoop his ass to the point where either he quits on the stool or I knock him out.
Wow. You really believe that, because everyone will say, oh man, Shakur is probably one of the best defensive fighters in the game. You really believe you can stop Shakur Stevenson?
Yes. I got into the point where I built up my momentum all over again. It took me some time, after the Josh Taylor fight, it took me a few fights to come to that fire. I think that we even heard it with Javante Davis, that fire, that spark it ends up dying out for some odd reasons, whether it's from personal or from things from contraction. It took me a second. It took me a second, but seeing my fire flame back in May for Cinco de Mayo weekend in Times Square, I'm excited for this next one. I'm really am.
What do you think took away the fire at what point? What was going on that maybe the fire was dim?
I would say for me in my career was just the acknowledgement, I guess, but I think I had to come with terms that I may not see that until towards the end of my career or till I hang up my gloves. But whether I do or I don't, it really doesn't matter. I think like Kobe said, Kobe Bryant mentioned at one point in his life that after winning so many championships and all-star games and doing so many things, et cetera, he realized that no matter how many championships he wins, he does, and then people are always gonna find ways to derail that or pretty much downplay it. And I think he realized that if he focuses on inspiring others, that's gonna bring that extra flame and spark out of him, and it did. He inspired the world, and I think for me, it just took me a second to really realize where my journey lies. And yeah, it's just about beating the best that they put in front of me. It doesn't matter who or where, and just inspiring behind that message.
All right. So we know that you've got Shakur now in the early of 2026. You say you believe that you will get Devin Haney maybe in the end of the year. But let's talk about Ryan Garcia. I know in the summer you said you were focused on fighting him, but his management turned it down. And he was quoted as saying, once his hands heal, he'd like to come back and fight you, Teofimo Lopez. Do you believe that Ryan Garcia will fight you, and it is a fight that we will also see?
Yes, I see 2026 being a very active year for me. Active year, something that is going to be very great, be in the public eye, and with great names. Sharing the ring with those of the Garcias, Shakurs, and Devin Haney's. Depending what Devin Haney does in November, against Brian Norman, that's also at the table. However, so what I've been told, no matter what, they would love to see me and Ryan regardless next year.
Wow. How many times realistically, Teofimo, do you think you'll fight next year in 2026?
I'd say this is probably the only year outside of Josh Taylor that I fought only once in the year. People always do say that this and that I only fight once a year. But that's not the case. Leading up to Josh Taylor, I fought 3 times in 10 months. So we are active, but this is the first year that it kind of was a slow year for me. Moving to 2026, though, I say about 2 to 3 fights would be ideal.
Wow. All right. So it looks like then we will get Teofimo Shakur, Teofimo Ryan, and maybe Haney.
Whoever else is next, you know?
Or that leads me to my next one. What about the IBF belt holder, Richardson Hitchens, who also said he wanted to fight you, but he said on social media you didn't offer him the right amount.
Yeah, the right amounts and stuff like that. This is the problem that we do have, right? In today's boxing. You've seen it all from many, many different phases of the sport. And I think that's what saved me a little bit getting into it, was that even when it came to big oppositions like the Comes, the Lomas, so on and so forth, it got to the point where you either take it or leave it type of situation. And I realized that the risk will come with a better reward afterwards, or at least I thought, right? And when you hear Hitchens and stuff like that, I think certain people that are putting up the money, because it's not the fighters that are putting up the money, it is the promoters or the networks, right? Networks, promoters get to it all together. And with the Hitchens, great fighter, by the way. I had a feeling as the fight kept going with him and Cambosis, it was gonna be a early stop, or early stoppage, which it was. I'd say though, he's still working his way. That's the thing. He's still working his way. And I think the promoters out there don't want to put too much on a plate if he hasn't shown the results of it. And that's not on me. That's not on me. Would love to face Hitchens. Would love to face him in New York and have that whole, title be called King of New York, and just really thump it in there for everybody to see that I am the best in not just New York, but in the world. So, eventually, I think that they just told me that we have the same management and everything, but they did tell me that they just need to build them up a little bit more. That's what it is.
What do you think about the Jake Paul, Gervonta Davis fight?
For me, honestly, it's great just for the fact that it's all talked about. Everybody, all eyes are on it. You see what Jake Paul does with the promoting, and then you got Gervonta, despite the turnaround, and what he's doing right now is raveling a different view and look to the sport. Something that he's just coming in, grabbing a bag and leaving, and then others think that this is just for entertainment purposes, and he'll get right back on track with other fights like of us. So no matter what it is, it's good for the sport. It is. Whether people want to call it a circus act or whatnot, we've had us fighters go into the WWE route. You've had Mayweather, Ali, just to name a few, Tyson, right? And I think this is what we're kind of seeing here, but now coming into our world of boxing.
Do you guys, since hearing you talk about the flame, one of the things, and I was at the press conference, one of the things that Tank talked about was, I've been boxing for a long time and I deserve this. And he kind of intimated, hey, look, I'm going to make, and as Jake Paul said, he's going to make over $40 million for this fight. You got a sense for him, because everyone kept saying, well, what about Teofimo? What about Haney? What about the rest of the guys? And he was like, well, what about those guys? I'm going to fight this guy. And then I don't even know if I want to do boxing anymore. It seems like his flame for the sport is like, here's this guy, I can fight this YouTuber, make a tremendous amount of money. And you know what? Maybe if I want to get out for a while, maybe I just go ahead and get out. Do you understand that? Or what about the other people who say, no, Tank should be fighting for legacy? Look at the Teofimos and look at those guys. They trying to fight each other. Why isn't he?
Honestly, with all that, I'm not Gervonta, but I don't blame him. I don't blame him at this point. Obviously, it gets real difficult when it comes to us trying to face each other. And for some odd reasons, whether it's management, whether it's promoters, whether it's disagreements between the fighters, do what you gotta do, man. Do what you gotta do. If that's where it leads you, you got a couple kids with you, that you're raising. Do what you gotta do, man. Honestly, I don't hate it. And it's an exhibition. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Obviously, for weight reasons. I think all of it, Gervonta has made a name without really facing the toughest opposition. He's made a name facing B level fighters. and it's worked out for him. I think him having his mentor at the time, Floyd Mayweather, and probably still is his mentor, behind the scenes. I think that's really what's helped him a lot to realize how to maneuver and make this game his. That's what it is.
What are your thoughts on Tank Davis? Because listen, and I certainly am not going to speak for Tank, but he said it many times. I'm the guy. I'm the guy that all those guys want to fight because of what I can do and what I bring to the table. What are your thoughts on Gervonta Davis as a fighter? And do you ever see you two sharing the ring together?
What do I see when I see Gervonta Davis? Well, he used to call him Rambo in the beginning of his career. Now, always been known as Tank. And, well-rounded fighter. I think that he has more capabilities to show out his skill sets with fighters like myself. However, it's up to him and how his team wants to maneuver that. I don't feel like they really want to add more risk if it's no need for it. Why go in risk more when you could collect a bigger bag for the less cause of it? And I think that's how they've had their mentality with Gervonta. Well-rounded fighter overall, exciting fighter. You know what I'm saying? And would have would have loved to share the ring with him. Don't know if that's still gonna be the case after this fight. We got to see what he does. Other than that, though, I think that, even with the press conference that you had alongside with Jake Paul, he even said that he doesn't really want to be known as the face of boxing anymore. You don't see himself like that. But I think it's one of those guys that are like, I don't want to, but look at me at the same time. So I think the attraction is still there. It's a drug. You know this very well. He's been surrounded with guys like Adrian Broner, and it becomes a drug eventually. It's just how you want to leave your so-called legacy or career behind for the world. But people are always gonna want more. You know this.
Yeah,
People are always gonna want more.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah, yeah. Or what do you remember most about when you guys were younger and y'all sparred?
Yeah, well, you were Region 3 back then. So in the amateurs, Region 3 was like the Gary Russell families, um, Javante Tank Davis, and Headbangers in DC, myself, Erickson Lubin. So because we were coming out of Florida,
Yes.
not New York. So there's another thing where people go back and forth about. So what I remember is Javante would win here and there, national silk gloves and stuff like that. I've seen Lubin and Tank fight each other in North Carolina for regionals. So we've known each other for quite some time. I think since I was 10, 11 years old. The Russells a little bit earlier. Nevertheless, though, he's that guy that if he's really um if he's really concentrated on not doing something, he will not do it. And I remember one year, national silver gloves. I don't know if it was 2012, 13, or even 2011. He could have made the weight. He decided not to make the weight for the tournament and just called it off and was like, "You guys take care of it this year for Region 3." And it was funny, but that's just who he is. So him seeing his act and how he is with the Jake Paul situation and stuff, I wouldn't not see that coming, knowing that it's Javante.
Mm. What did you think of another guy you had some back and forth with? But man, what a performance! How about Terence Crawford and what he did to Canelo Alvarez?
Yeah, for sure. Leading up to the fight, I even told my father, who's my trainer, I told him that I got Crawford beating Canelo. And he's like, nah, no, no way. And I was like, I'll tell you why. I've been grateful and thankful enough to been sharing camps with Canelo a little bit just to see insights and stuff. And I was like, nah, he's not gonna be able to beat Crawford if they do the right game plan. And that's what they did. And he did very well. So I'm excited more so to beat his little bro in front of him and see where that leads up to, man. I might shoot up to 160, you know? If he could do it with Canelo, why can't Teofimo do it with?
Now look, I remember you guys. And this was obviously in the past where you had some back and forth. You were like, "Yo, I come up there welterweight." But after watching his performance, did you realize? Were you like, was there a part you're like, you know what? Hey, that Bud Carver, I don't want none of that smoke. That dude, there is something different.
No, I know that he has the goods. So why not? pause. But like, what? Yeah. Why to say pause? Because you do. So the kids nowadays are not this crazy. But um, no matter what, give the man his flowers. He did great that night. He boxed very well, especially when they saw amount of flurry and combinations in that ninth round against Canelo Alvarez. So I think not, but nevertheless, man, the plan stays the same. But it's up to what the champ wants to do. He's done more than enough for the sport, so he doesn't even have to do more than he does already.
Now we had Eddie Hearn on, and Eddie Hearn is obviously now representing Drum Boots Ennis, and he said if Bud Crawford wants one mega fight before he leaves, it should be against Jerron Boots Ennis, and he's got the guy that will give Terence Crawford his first loss, and he's the guy that will be passed the mantle to as pound for pound best fighter in the world. Your thoughts on Boots Ennis, Terence Crawford fight? What would you think how would that play out in your opinion?
Well, before I answer that question, I would like to ask you,
Yeah.
what'd you feel about his 154 debut?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I always thought Boots was a bigger guy, so it didn't surprise me. Now, did he fight a world beater? No. I mean, let's be honest. We know that Lima is not a world beater. There are a number of guys at 154 I certainly would love to see him in the ring with, who were there, whether it be the Charlos or those guys who were still around there. But I just believe that's a hell of a task to put in as talented as my man Boots is, to put him in that ring with Terence Crawford, because Terence Crawford is something different. But I'm just giving your thoughts on what you think, because Eddie Hearn was I know that's his fighter now, but he's like, this is the next guy. And I believe if they wanted to make a fight right now, Boots is the guy that delivers the loss to Terence Crawford.
Well, I think that it's a lose situation for Crawford in a sense of having such a big fight already been done, becoming a 3-time undisputed world champion. Why go to a guy that just started at 54 now, right? Didn't do his 54 at a world title. It was what, an interim or eliminator?
Yeah.
Okay. So you see the biggest difference on that. So it's like, um, Boots has a short window. Stay a little bit more active in the next year. Show and beat these guys that are either world champions. Unify real quick. Give something to Crawford before he says, you know what? I think I'm just gonna call it off. I think it's done for me in my career. I'm well off. So because Crawford's 38, he didn't look it, but he's at that point now where you gotta really think about how much longer does Crawford want to be in the boxing world.
Yeah. Yeah. Since we're talking about fighters who are black, I read this and it was a surprise to me. But I was reading an article and it says that Teofimo Lopez seems to have a real disdain for black fighters. How do you respond to that, Teofimo?
Say again?
I was reading a story, it was on Boxing Scene, and it said Teofimo Lopez seems to have a real disdain for black fighters, and they were talking about, I guess, quotes that you had made about certain fighters, whether it be Tank, whether it be Crawford. When will you respond to that?
Man, I grew up seeing these guys talk trash. Nothing about racism, man. I literally seen them talk trash to build up fights. It was never about getting canceled. Never about that before and ever. I grew up with more black people than I ever grew up with Latinos. I was always called the Chico and stuff of the group. So whatever people want to say, do what you gotta do, say what you want to say. No matter what it is, man. Beating Shakur Stevenson. Don't tell me he wasn't black because he's Puerto Rican. Don't tell me that stuff. I don't want to hear it. All right. I just want to fight black fighters. Floyd Mayweather, we a couple months ago here in Vegas at the Crystal Shops ran into each other. He was at Bodega Veneta with his girl or girls. You know how he be. And he told me on the way out after we talked a little bit, chatted it up, to make and schedule me training in his gym. Kid you not. He was like, "You fight like a black fighter from the way you box and everything. You're black, but you're not. But you fight like a black fighter." And it's like, yeah, because I grew up with mainly around that environment. Did I try something? Yes. Did it work in my benefit? No. But it's a learned experience.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I am that. I just try to see how to spark up something because no one's really trying to aim. And I thought with maybe a code on hate would bring them to be like, let's, man, get rid of the Teofimo already. Let's do this. And I didn't get that. So just going back now, reverse, check it around, see what we could do, clean the image, and face a guy like Shakur Stevenson and give him his first loss and see where that goes.
I like it. I like it. And I appreciate you responding to that, giving me the answer. Okay.
I get your answer.
Yeah, absolutely. No, listen, we all evolve. And that's the important thing. Hey, maybe I was just trying to, spark it up, really pump it up, get this guy to fight me and bailed up this fight. And then obviously it gets taken wrong. And listen, I think what we have to understand too is we're living in a different age now too, where every and anything you say can and will be used against you. So now in this day and time, you got to be careful with your words, even if you're trying to be cheeky or trying to just, hey, look, I'm just trying to promote the fun, be having fun. There are going to be some people now ain't going to take it that way and be like, nah, I don't like that. You racist. And you know what? Like you say, all right, I got to learn from that. I'll do it a different way now. Maybe I'll just pertain strictly to the fight in boxing. So that's the way I take it. And I appreciate you responding to it.
It's like the whole thing they say is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And what I've been doing prior to the comments that I was mentioning on wasn't broken.
Yeah.
So why change it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What's the best thing about being a professional fighter?
I'd say the best thing about being a professional fighter, and not just any kind of professional fighter, but knowing that you're doing this because you love it. You love it. You're doing it because you love it, and you do it more so to inspire others, really.
Yeah.
To be now, from seeing those fighters you grew up watching, and then you are now that fighter for others to watch you. So yeah, I think that's the whole thing that I had to realize too with everything. And my best thing about being a professional fighter is knowing that I can inspire so many others to. I get messages almost every day, and they're like, "Man, you changed my life. Man, you made me think differently. Man, I honestly wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for the fact that how you spoke about things. Just being authentic."
What's the worst thing about being a professional boxer?
I'd say at this level, activity. That's it. Activity. I would love to fight 4 times. I would. I would love to do certain things more, But I think with the way business is at this point in boxing's time, it is a bit frustrating. That's all. It's a bit frustrating.
I'm curious when let's say you just go to the mall and then the layman comes up to you and says, "Hey, how you doing? Da 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 da. Well, what do you do for a living?" What do you say?
I say that I'm a drug dealer. But they tell me a drug dealer would say he's a drug dealer, and that's true. I get it. But that's the comical thing of it. I sell drugs. I sell entertainment. I sell laughter. You see what? That's a drug. Laughter, drug. I just find ways to make it fun.
That's cool. You went to Honduras recently, right?
I did.
And that's where you're from, right?
My parents were.
Parents, yeah. And what was that like for you, man?
It was great. It was really nice. I haven't been there since 2022 for the inauguration for the president, who is a woman now, Sumara Castro. I believe her period of time is up now. However, nevertheless, it was great. It was really nice. I received an medal, an honorary medal, gold medal.
Yeah.
From Honduras in the Congress as well, thanks to the president herself. Just honoring me for all my due diligence and everything that I've done so far, not just for the country, but just for my legacy, man. becoming a hero to the country, man.
That's great. And you had to feel good about that, bro.
I did, absolutely. Now the whole thing is just pushing not just for my sport, but for them to really fund. And that was another thing. Speaking with the Congress, speaking with them on that type of level was like, hey, I think you guys need to push more on not just football, which is soccer for them over there, or boxing now that is coming out because of Teofimo, but let's get all the other sports involved now. Let's start funding better things for them. Let's start changing up and giving them more equipment so that they could become the futures of Teofimo, but in their world, in their sport.
We'll wrap it up with this. I considering your resume, I mean, you're the guy who beat Loma. I mean, and that was like, whoa, when you took down Loma, right? And then all of a sudden it comes out, and I know initially you had said something about maybe Teofimo and Manny Pacquiao next year. But then all of a sudden it comes out Manny Pacquiao maybe fighting Loma, not Rolly. Give me your thoughts on this. And did you have conversations with Manny Pacquiao? And was it you think the belt, the sanctioning body, who kind of said no, he's got to fight somebody else as opposed to Rolly? Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I noticed a big change of events lately. The way WBA has done their orders and stuff and whatnot. Pacquiao, nevertheless, honestly, what can we really say? There's nothing bad we can say about Manny Pacquiao. He has done it all, and it's the first to do one hard thing, and that's 8 divisions. I definitely had talks. We definitely were, and trying to make something happen there. However, I think that Pacquiao is on the way of trying to see what other fights that he can take, though. I would love to see a rematch with Barrios. I would love to see that. I felt, me personally being there, I felt Pacquiao won. That's just my opinion. But yeah, man, I think sharing the ring, whoever it is, whether it's the likes of me or Rolly or anyone else, man, enjoy it because we're not gonna get a guy or someone like that has done so much for the sport like Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, and if, I mean, obviously they got to work that out, but if Loma and Pacquiao get in the ring together, how do you think that would play out?
That's an interesting take, and both guys are southpaw. You know what I mean? They're very I would say they have their own unique southpaw style. You can't mimic Pacquiao's and you can't mimic Loma's. So I would just be that's a very suspenseful fight. I'd just be on the edge of my seat the whole time.
I like it. All right, we'll wrap it up here. We found out here it's going to be Teofimo and Shakur at the beginning of 2026. And we know Teofimo's fighting again, and he's looking at Ryan Garcia as well in 2026. Give the people the final word on the takeover and what they should see and expect next year.
Well, listen, man, it is Teofimo Lopez, the takeover. Yes, the takeover. And we're here to take over 2026 this year coming up. We're just ready to make everything rock and roll, man. We're here to get these names, put them in dirt, and just keep it moving, man. And see who you guys want to see Teofimo fight next. Obviously, I've seen it. I love it. Can't wait for more of it. And just thank you, Brian Custer. Thank you. Just having me here once again. The Last Stand. You know what time it is. It's Teofimo's time. Let's go.
It's always the takeover time. I did say people sent questions on social media. One asked, guy, Too Small Boxing asked, please ask Teo, why does negotiations with big fights seem to always fail with him, but work with second tier opposition as of late?
As of late? No, I'd say that the whole idea of it's clauses. It's really small things. It is not about these things anymore. I'm tired of the take it and leave it. I'll be honest, Brian. I've done it, and I thought that would change it. Didn't change it, but I now rely on my team. With Keith Connolly and Mike Borre, I rely on them now to just let me do my part, and they're doing theirs. So just wait on it, guys. For everybody, just wait on it. I promise you. Just wait on it. These things are going to turn around. We have a different management team, and that's what I needed for the stuff that are coming up.
Fantastic. Teofimo Lopez, man, I always enjoy talking with you. I can't wait to see you and Shakur at the beginning of the year. And I always appreciate your time, my man.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. And let's go Danny Garcia, by the way.
Xavier Garcia, yeah, saying goodbye there at the end of a career, a legend as well. Listen, that's what we do here on The Last Stand. We bring you the biggest names in the sport, like the Takeover, the 2-division world champion, Teofimo Lopez. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again next week.